Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, Funny for Money. Karen Williams first wowed me at a showcase in the late 90s. Back then, she was a strong vocalist. The confidence in her on and off stage was equally strong. She was a great personality, and I knew I would see her again. And I did. And then I got to know her family, especially a late uncle of hers who turned out to be one of the greatest ventriloquists of all time. But sadly, Dennis Spicer passed away in 1964 after an awful car accident. I got to know more about Dennis through Karen and her mum and her nan. And through the years I got to meet Dennis's other sister June and Dennis's son Robin. I've always felt close to the family, and we helped each other out at both of our charity events, and I got to meet Karen's parents nearly as many times as I met her. Rose and Dave Dalton would be at events I had put on, and they were wonderful support to Karen and I over the years. Rose had courage. She had one of the kindest hearts and fought for what she believed in. She would always protect Dennis and make sure people were sharing the right information on his work and his life story. Sadly, Rose is no longer with us. She's with her brother Dennis and her mum, looking down, watching Dave, her grandchildren, and the rising talent of the incredible Karen Dalton. Today, hear the emotional story and connection we have through ventriloquism and show business when I talk to Karen Williams about her career on Eyes and Teeth, Funny for Money. Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, somebody who goes back with me quite a few decades. Well, probably just two, actually. But she's a complete delight to be around. She makes me laugh in hysterics, and she makes me emotional with her vocals. She's incredible. She's the one and only Karen Williams.
Hi, I'm glad you said only a couple of decades. I was beginning to feel really old.
No one wants to hear that, but I did narrow it down slightly.
We are into our third decade. You do know that.
It is.
When I was 19.
Was it 19? Was that at that showcase for Trevor George?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it? I remember seeing you and John Clegg in a car park, and Zach Bowman, I believe. And
Paul Eastwood.
And Paul Eastwood, yes. Because I spoke to John Clegg a few weeks ago, and he said all the other people there, which was Paul Eastwood, Zach Bowman, and Karen Dalton at the time, yes.
So, still go out as Karen Dalton. Not a lot of people know me as Williams.
Okay.
I suppose old habits.
They know there's two of you.
Yeah, I have. Well, there's actually three of us.
There is three.
You might find out later.
There is three of you, actually. Who am I talking to now? We'll find out soon on the next episode of Soap. Do you remember Soap? That was great. So, Karen, so we met, whatever your surname is, we met, didn't we? And our worlds collided together, really, through a ventriloquist. And I think I met you at the car park first in the showcase. And then I found out that your uncle was a ventriloquist.
Yes.
I think you must have told me.
You stopped talking to me a lot.
I just carried on talking, didn't I? And
you were talking for two and you didn't have anyone on your arm, put it that way.
I was completely in awe because of my passion and my knowledge of the ventriloquist world. I knew who your uncle was. But you never got to meet Dennis Spicer, did you?
And you know what? It always was so nice for me because to hear, I've heard the stories, I've watched the videos, I've listened to all sorts of tales from my mum, and from knocking on the door, is Larry Grayson and Ken Dodd at her front door and coming into her, mum's house and having cake and all sorts of things. But to actually, have somebody, my age at the time go, oh, I know who that is, and they were brilliant, it really makes you proud. And so I was really interested, thinking, I knew he was brilliant, but there's people that are in the trade, if you like, that think he's absolutely amazing. And it was just so lovely for me because I'm gutted that I'm in showbiz and I've got this big showbiz uncle.
Yes.
And I never met him. It just feels, I'll go and ask Uncle Den and I'll get, some advice from him about treading the boards.
Yeah.
But he's not there. So, it was just, it was lovely when you were so excited about him. And Jimmy Tamley, obviously, we knew as well. So
I know, yeah. Me and Jimmy got excited and we're saying how amazing you are as a talent. And so it's in the family.
And I think Jimmy met my Nan, who made it to 103 grand years.
Yes.
And I remember how proud my nan was to meet somebody that was just so in awe of her son, because,
Oh.
He was her baby.
Oh, that's nice. I remember sitting in your mum's house, I believe it was your mum's house, talking to your nan when she was in her early 90s. And I do know that she found it hard to watch Ventriloquist. She wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
would she? And I understand
No,
that.
she wouldn't. There was a couple of things, like she just couldn't watch it because it obviously emotionally
Yes.
it's hard to do, but also in her estimations, then he was a great, and so she would always find herself measuring other people up against him, and that was really difficult,
Yes.
for a mum, I suppose. I'm a
Of
mum
course.
now, so I'd understand that,
Yeah.
but yeah, she just couldn't do it. The whole concept, she found it really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, after that loss, it's completely understandable. But I'm not sure what your Auntie June was like with watching Vince, but I do know that, she was okay.
Yeah, she's just like my mum. She's still going strong. Sadly, we lost mum, but Auntie June's still going strong. Yeah, she still watches it.
Yeah, I was in awe of your mum because she would tell me everything about Dennis and growing up with him. And obviously, I interviewed your mum in her living room about the book, and my book is. I finally finished the first draft of the book, which I think,
have not.
yes,
That's been going for ages.
I know, sweetheart. So this was like 15 years ago. I had that chat in your mum's living room. So I've got those photos she gave me. I'm ready. I'm ready to put Dennis's story out there and share that. But he features very highly in the book, which is.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm delighted with what I've collated over the years, and so it is incredible. And I know that Rose was okay watching Vince. She enjoyed Jimmy Tamley and she
loved it. She just loved it. And Mum was very showbiz. I don't know if you know this story, but Uncle Den was very protective over baby Rose because she was the baby of the family. But she was a comic herself, my mum, and just growing up with her brother, he never wanted her to go into show business because he was like, it's really, it's one of those big things where you get knockbacks, and he didn't want that for his baby sister. With that in mind, she got to Opportunity Knocks, and she was a red-haired comedian. And I say red-haired, and I'll tell you that makes sense in a minute.
Yes.
So the significance of that, rather. So
Okay.
She was a red-haired comedian. She got on Opportunity Knocks, and something stopped her, and it was this voice in the back of her head of Den. Obviously he was no longer around, saying, show business, I don't want you to do it. And emotionally she was pulled away from it, and a red-haired comedian called Marty Kane went on in her place.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I knew, so many people have spoke about Marty Kane, and she was incredible. But I mean, do you know what Rose was like as a comedian? Because you've got the natural talent of humour.
You know what? She had, very much like me, she had a persona.
Yes.
My persona's very different to hers.
Right.
But she used to have, like, Christmas baubles in her ears, cheap lingerie. I suppose if you bought it these days, it would be in Primark. But when I say lingerie, I don't mean scantily clad. I mean full-on kind of, like, camisole top and leather pencil skirt with some horrendously huge outrageous platform shoes with fishnet ties.
Okay.
And she would come on with a Birmingham accent, and her opening line back in the 80s would have been, for those who don't know me, the name's Raquel Welsh. And then she'd say, do you like me get up? You do? Oh, good, because it's got to be back in the shop window tomorrow morning. And she had that kind of, me old man is get up and go, sort of got up and went. So she was always talking about her husband and the trials and tribulations of being this sort of Birmingham mother. And she was born in Coventry. I mean, I was born in Hillingdon in Middlesex, and so I've always been a southerner. And so but she was brought up in Coventry, and so she had this persona. Nan was from West Ham, but so she had this sort of West Midlands persona, and it was hysterical. She used to go, and we used to go on holidays, and they still do these competitions at holiday parks where if you win the next round, you have to win a free holiday. And honestly, we dined out between her doing her comedy shows and my sister in the beauty pageants. We used to have about 5 holidays a year. It was brilliant. But
that's incredible. That's so nice to hear. That's she did tell me that she was once a comedian, and but I didn't know that story. I did not know.
She did loads of shows as well. She was always the funny one in shows. So she was always in you know, not in amateur dramatics, very big in amateur dramatics, but, you know, just as they are now, some of these amateur dramatic shows are full of professional people, you know, and they were brilliant. So she did all sorts of things, from being on stage in different pyjama game and things like that to holiday parks and stuff like what we do now.
Ice and Teeth. I remember her. She was with Dave, and they came to see me supporting Ken Dodd, and she was so complimentary, and that meant a lot to me, knowing about Dennis, and because she didn't have to say the things she did, and obviously as a young vent, sort of upcoming, and I really cherished her, you know, her advice and her comments after my show when she come to see me with Ken, and you know, because I didn't go on as long as Ken did, but I know that Ken Dodd was a huge part of your family as well.
He is. So Ken Dodd, as my dog is barking downstairs, I don't know if that's being picked up. Yeah,
Ken Dog.
Dad's dog's dead. I can't remember that what you're supposed to say. Ken Dodd is my cousin's godfather.
Yes.
So yeah, I remember meeting Ken when I was 7 years old, and he was on at a local theatre, and Mum just said, we'll go and see him. You know, we haven't seen him for years, we've been out of contact. And we just turned up at the stage door, and I just remember being given my free tickling stick and just thinking it was absolutely the best thing I'd ever had. Later on, I discovered it was a feather duster, but, you know, when I was a kid, it was a tickling stick, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. But did you know the significance between, you know, of who Ken was at 7 years old, or not really?
Not really.
Not that age,
Not
no.
really. I mean, I grew up watching Variety on, you know, as we all do.
Yes.
I grew up watching all sorts of Variety and all those sorts of things.
The 80s were the best, yeah.
And I didn't really know who he was, but yeah, I've got a better idea now.
Yeah, I know that there's a lovely picture actually of Ken Dodd at the christening, and he's holding Robin, baby Robin, which was June and Dennis's son. Really nice connection that, and so it was lovely to see Rose and Dave at that show, and then Rose booked me to do. It was yourself actually. You booked me to do this wonderful thing in this village hall around your area, and it was a night to raise money for the Cancer Trust, and I think it was one of my favourite nights because I paid a little tribute to your uncle. I don't know how well I did, but the audience were very appreciative.
I remember this. Yeah, it was for cancer research, wasn't it? I remember this.
Yes, I stuck Old MacDonald in. I tried to learn it as best as I could. It was never as great as Dennis. I put the song in my show for quite a while actually after that. But I wanted to learn it and pay some sort of tribute to Dennis at the show, and the audience were incredible. It's probably one of my first standing ovations, and I've only had 3. So, and I'll never forget how kind the audience were.
I've had 3. Most of them are when they get up to walk out, but you know.
But I remember you hosted that night as well, Karen. You put on some amazing shows, and I know you've done that since. But just in those early times when we'd do a few shows together, and you'd host it, you'd sing, and then you really built me up. And I want to thank you, for giving me that opportunity to do that for Rose as well, because it was so nice to get to know her more as well.
It was such a nice night. I remember it really well. And I remember being invited to do a couple of your shows at different theatres and meeting some of the wonderful people that you've helped. And actually I remember one of the best times. The reason I mention it is because my mum and dad used to come, and anything that Steve Hewlett did, my mum wanted to be at, because she just thought you were brilliant. And, you are brilliant. And I remember sitting in the back of my car, my mum and dad's car, at age, 32, taking a picture going, Mum and Dad had taken me, given me a lift to my gig. It was really odd, and they drove me all the way to Eastbourne or wherever it was. I can't remember. I think it was Eastbourne Theatre. I just remember it being brilliant. I was being given a lift by my mum and dad to my gig.
Lovely.
I felt like I was, 12 again.
Yeah, they roadied. Oh, that's lovely. And I think that was the Devonshire Park in Eastbourne for Nicola Langlands, which would have been the heart and lung transplant. And you helped us that night, actually helped us raise £8,000 for the Look Beyond the Heart Foundation, which actually launched the charity, because she needed 5,000 and we smashed it out the park. So thanks so much for being part of that. It was a great night.
I remember my persona going around, and you're not really legally allowed to shake buckets, but this character of mine, which we'll talk about I'm sure later,
Yes.
Didn't really care about the rules, so she shook that bucket good and proper.
She did. And we did one for a wonderful Joyce Brown, who who I met at Joyce Brown. Do you remember you done the King's Theatre Southsea for me as well?
Yeah.
Thank you once again. I met Joyce. It's weird how this full circle happens. I met Joyce when I first met Ken Dodd when I was 14. I got a train from Basingstoke after school to meet Ken Dodd, and I waited at the stage door, and I missed him. He'd gone on. I got there at 7:15, and he was just going on stage, and I waited till 12:30 for him to come out. But I met these ladies who were going to watch the show, and they came out in the interval to see if I was okay, because I was still wet. I just didn't want to go home without not meeting him. And so I waited, and I met him. He was lovely, gave me his address and said, write to me, keep in touch. And Joyce was one of those sisters. There were 4 sisters there, and I called them the Golden Girls. And then I saw them a couple of years later on the Isle of Wight when I was a Bluecoat. So it was, I stayed in touch with them, and Joyce became my biggest fan, actually. She used to make clothes for my puppets, and we became so close. And that's why I wanted to kind of give her something back, and I rallied some more friends together to do that. So I think it's so nice, because we have helped each other out over the years, and it's important to give something back, I think, to the people, that are in our audience.
Mum would always say, pay it forward. She lived a life doing that, and I've learned that. You pay it forward. You don't know why you're doing it at the time. It just feels good to be doing something for somebody, and then it always comes round. It always comes round somehow.
Yes, no, I believe that too, and wow, didn't your mum pay it forward? And this is when I got involved in a couple of your Relay for Life Ascot events that you did, and it got huge. It was epic, wasn't it? What mum created?
I was talking to somebody about it this evening. Randomly, my dad was selling some furniture, and the lady drove an hour to pick his furniture up, and she messaged me afterwards telling me what a wonderful father I had, and how she was really touched by his kindness. I was like, you spent 5 minutes with him. And then I was explaining to her what my mum and dad did, and what my mum was very much the lead on was these Relay for Life for Cancer Research, which is essentially a 24-hour relay where you're in teams and they have to walk around Ascot Racecourse at the time for 24 hours. At least 2 members of your team have to walk, and there's entertainment on and all sorts of things. And people think, oh, it's a nice event once a year. But it's not just that. It's the standing outside supermarkets dressed as the Easter Bunny collecting, or dressed as Father Christmas collecting, or dressed in pink collecting, and setting up all these extra fundraising nights and everything else that went with it, and leading, sometimes up to 20 teams of sort of 10 people to get their fundraising up.
Incredible.
And I was telling this lady about my mum's Pride of Britain nomination, and sadly, Mum was too ill to carry on in that competition, and actually she died a couple of less than a month later after that. But she, we were at Ascot Racecourse. She'd raised £1.2 million with her committee for Cancer Research UK over the 11 years. She got a Queen's Award for voluntary service with her team. It's a community award. She was absolutely fearlessly brilliant. And the sad thing is that when she decided to hand over the relay baton to somebody else, because she was tired. It's a lot of work she was 72, so it was a lot of work for a volunteer as well. And we've got these young grandkids and all those things, so she handed over the baton. But sadly, as she handed over the baton, she handed that over without really knowing what was to come. And what was to come is, sadly, she got cancer, lung cancer, and she died within 6 months, which was, I'm only just about able to say it without bursting into tears, because I've learned to talk about her with pride rather than with such sadness. So, but Mum knew a lot about cancer and what people went through, so it must have been a really scary time for her. Weirdly, tenuously brings me on to her friendship with Roy Castle's wife,
Fiona.
She was friends with Roy Castle through Dennis and all of those things, and actually his wife really was on the committee and really a helpful member on that Ascot Relay for Life committee team. So that's another little sort of showbiz.
Your mum introduced me to Fiona Castle actually on the relay. She was adorable. And but what your mum has created, it was just, everybody knew her. She was just such an incredible woman. But not just that, she had such a heart, didn't she? And she cared about so many people.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, like when you said earlier, you said, oh, you know, I really liked it when my mum, you know, said to you that she thought you were great, gave you tips and advice and things like that. What we aren't saying about my mum is she was absolutely straight talking, and if she didn't think you were very good, she'd also tell you that. So, you know, she did never mince her words, always my sounding board, and sometimes I didn't like it. And she used to write me a few funnies, and she used to wash my costumes and all those sorts of things, but she did not mess about when it came to opinion about showbiz, and she had a blinking good one.
She did, but I did feel that once, and I felt so bad. Now, Ken Dodd said to me, because I did do it on his shows, I mentioned a few events, but mainly just to build up to a routine, or you know, give him a little name check. And if Rose was in the audience, I would always mention Dennis, you know. And but I talk about Ray Allen, Keith Harrison, Roger de Courcy, the ones that were popular of the day, you know. But I'd always stick Dennis in there. And I think one night she watched me, and I'd forgot to mention Dennis, or I forgot she was in the audience, and she and she came back. She says, "You didn't mention Dennis tonight. I'm disappointed in." And she did. She told me, but I completely. You know, and I did apologise, and I like, you know, whenever I can, I always will get Dennis's name to be remembered. That's what I'm here for, I think, is to make sure these people are not forgot about. And that's what Eyes and Teeth is about as well. When we're talking about Dennis, we're talking about Rose as well. And these people should always be remembered because of what they've done while they were here. They're wonderful memories, Karen, and it really is nice to talk about them. It's emotional, but it really is nice to talk about your mum.
I'm just really lucky she was my mum.
Oh, that's lovely. I was getting emotional myself then. Are you all right? I keep losing you.
Hello?
Hiya, sorry. Sorry.
It's probably my mum.
So, Karen, you went into the corporate world, and I can't thank you enough for putting me forward for a few events as well. Some were good for me, some maybe not quite as good. But took me a while to get used to the corporate world. They're completely different gigs to do in holiday parks, cruises, theatre shows. But I love a challenge, you know, and you really are great at hosting these events, and you put yourself 100% into what you were doing with the corporate world. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, do you know what? I do remember you were doing BGT, and I was phoning you thinking, gosh, I've got this event. I need to get a price on him before he goes off and becomes really, you know, a superstar. I just remember thinking, but yeah, I mean, I've always been a workaholic, so a hard grafter is probably, you know, better. So I've always wanted to be dipping in some kind of show business. So it isn't enough for me to just get in the car at 4 o'clock and go off and do a gig. I've got to be doing something else. So I started, you know, working in events and the entertainment side, and I got these gigs in events as a, you know, as a singer, or, you know, I sort of go and help out at friends' events and things like that. And when I was on these events, I start seeing the you know, what they'd set up, the schedule of events. I was like, it's not going to work. Why are you putting the comedian on like at 8 o'clock? You need to. The audience aren't ready for it then. You know, why are you having that type of band and not that type of band? And why are you... And I started questioning everything, and I started just having great conversations with people. And as I was having these great conversations, because it's chemistry, you know, and I think that if only somebody that maybe has been on the stage knows the chemistry of an audience, and so can put that bit together. And I often think that's the bit missing with big event agencies. You've got these big event agencies, and they put on amazing events, but they just haven't got that little bit of sparkle about.
Just sometimes get it wrong, don't they? The puzzle doesn't fit.
Pull all of that talent and that entertainment element together. And I started noticing gaps. I started just mentioning the gaps, and they'd start listening. And over time, they really listened, and I became a bit of an entertainment consultant, I suppose. Rather than being a sort of agent or booker, I was more creative producer. And so, you know, I'd start getting, and then a brief after brief came in, and it used to be like, well, this is the brief, this is the launch, and what can we do to bring it to life? So I started doing a lot of immersive brand experience, but using live entertainment, and I just became trusted, which to me, I still to this day go, they really think I'm an expert. Like, I've been introduced to people, CEO of O2. This is Karen Williams, and she's our entertainment talent manager and expert and I'd be like, you've just called me an expert, and it would really make me giggle because it's all money for old rope. It's just what we know and what we do, and I hadn't valued that part of what we do, because you value a lot being on stage and giving to an audience, and the accolade is what they give back. But what you don't actually realise, and I didn't realise, was that we know a lot of stuff. We do. And I didn't realise I knew a lot of stuff until I started doing these events. So it just went from strength to strength. And then I became trusted as, oh, well, we've got this variety night to put on. Oh, Karen will do that. Karen will do that. Karen will do that. And I stand in front of them going, yeah, that's fine. Oh my God, I've got to do this. Can't believe I've got to do this. And then I just get on with friends, because I knew that all my friends, not only are they brilliant, but I trusted them to be able to pull off the gig. And I knew I'd have their support, when actually my nerves were a wreck, because I'm saying, yes, I can pull this show together and produce this big event for you. But actually my nerves were a wreck. So it was great to have all my friends around me, and I regularly still work on big events with people like Zach and Zach Bowman, Max Hutton, Susie Parsley, Julie Pattermore, and myself, and lots of people, and it just works better with friends.
Yeah, and Ken Dodd would have said, it's the science not just of comedy, it's the science of an evening.
Total.
Science of an evening, isn't it? Like you say, it's an ingredient that you have to weave into one evening, and don't put the comedian on during dinner. Do something in between courses, put a singer on, and it's weaving those acts in the perfect way. I was one of the last corporates I did. They put me on during the main course. Okay.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say to you. So
you know what?
there was no Karen. There was no Karen Dalton there. No Karen Williams.
It's difficult. It's really difficult, isn't it? And I think Ken had it really, really right about the ingredients, and I talk about the chemistry of it. But if you think about it as your 45-minute cabaret act, you welcome and you start to get to know people. You then build it. You then do something fast, and then you slow it down a bit. Then you've got them in the palm of your hand, so then you can do whatever you want, and then you build and build and build until the end of the show, where there's this big explosive party. Well, that's the same as an event, only instead of doing it in 45 minutes and hopefully grabbing your audience, you've got to do it from the moment the invite goes out to the moment they step onto the red carpet, or however they're coming into these amazing events.
Yes.
And you've got to get them there. So it's everything from you set the tone from the moment they walk in. So what have you got going on there? Have we got mirror men, or have we got stilts, or what have we got amazing, visuals or comics? What have we got going on? And it's just building that crescendo. So in the end, everybody is on that dance floor, and the last man standing is usually a DJ, and the floor is still full until the event ends, and that's when you know you've had a bloody good event.
Oh, contributional.
It must build you with pride at the end of the evening when the CEO is smiling and happy, and they give you that look as if to say, you've done this, you created this for me, and so it must be a nice feeling at the end of the night.
It's really nice. I mean, and I do love those big sort of evening events, but some of the stuff that I've done that I've really enjoyed was the O2 Dome's 10th birthday. So the O2 turned 10, and they wanted a mechanic a mechanic to give out lots of prizes and spread awareness and have this big birthday. So they booked people like Celine Dion, and they had, all sorts of artists going on in the evening, but they wanted to fill the dome with a buzz. And so I was part of many marketing agencies got together, and I was working for one of them as part of many people, and we had the big mechanic to give away all these prizes. So I was like, I know what we'll do. We'll just get a huge present box, and actually when you walk in the box, you walk in, but there's cameras, and the box will start talking to you, and it can see you, so it might say, "Oh, nice dress," or or have a bit of a joke. And it's a bit like Big Brother. You can't understand how it knows things about you. And then they press a button and they get a prize, and then later on they come back from random selection, and Vernon Kay comes along, and he's going to do a live game show and all of these things. And they bought it, and it went ahead, and I found myself going, "Oh my God, I'm script writing for Vernon Kay, this is mad." And actually now I've got to go and meet Chris Moyles, and and I need a voice of God. Who's going to be my voice of God? Oh well, Herbie Adams is a pretty good voice, and Andrew Fleming. So
brilliant.
I have those two. So again, I had my mates.
Yeah, they're
and then
great.
I needed a couple of dancers, so I phoned my friend Emma, and I was like, "Emma, I need some dancers." But you just know all these people, and so that was probably one of the biggest things I did. But the best buzz I ever got was from BMW event, and I actually got coronavirus from the BMW event. We won't talk about the C word tonight, but it was a global event, and I came home and was very ill about a week later, and it turns out it was the dreaded COVID.
Wow.
But it was amazing, and then I got a phone call, and I thought, this is it, I've made it, I never need to do anything else again. They said, "No, we've got this event, would you be able to come and be our talent manager and just look after the talent and make sure they've got everything they need, and produce them on stage and do their scripts, and and I was like, yeah, no problem. I thought this would be a nice, easy gig. And then they told me it was for Claudia Winkleman being the host, and I was like, I absolutely love her. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got a real girl crush. And then I said, yeah, that's fine. And we put some dances in, and I created a few other bits that were going on. We put about 4 DJs on. It was a really mental event. And then they said, our headline talent, we want, can you go and offer for us and sort it out? Fat Boy Slim. I was like, are you absolutely joking? I've completely made it. And I rocked up to this event. I was like, I need a couple of extra event managers. So I hooked in a couple of friends, Susie and Della, who, both on stage. I was like, I need a couple of people that I just know is going to get things done. And it came across the radio, and I nearly died. It was George to Karen, because the guy was called George at the front door. George to Karen, Fat Boy Slim is in the building. I repeat, Fat Boy Slim is in the building, and I had to go down and get him and go, oh, hello. And I was like, it was just mega. It was the best thing I've ever done, I think.
That's
on
amazing.
That side of the stage.
Yeah.
And and I really got this massive buzz. I just loved it.
That's incredible.
Electric.
Well, it comes from experience, doesn't it? But you didn't just get there, to get that gig. You worked to get that gig, and your groundwork. Where was that? Where did it come? Did you do like not blue coat or red coat work or anything? Did you do any seasons?
So where I started, I was Butlins Red Coat. The way I got to be in a Butlins Red Coat is I went on a TV show hosted by Gabby Roslin called Whatever You Want, and I got my way on there, and the whole thing was like you had to compete for what you wanted. Some people wanted to become, have a track day or become a racing car driver or become a West End something, or it was something great, or they wanted to have a job doing something, and it was, I want to be a Butlins Red Coat. And at the time, if I'm honest, I didn't really want to be a Butlins Red Coat. I just wanted to be on TV. I was like, this is it. I'm going to go for this TV
I had
show.
No idea you'd done
and
this.
I was 17.
Wow.
And I'd signed to say that I was 18. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been allowed on the show.
We all done that to get into Butlins, yeah.
So I was a bit naughty. So I went on this show, and I didn't win. And I thanked my lucky stars that I didn't win, because I thought, they'll find me out. I'd already been winning karaoke competitions at 16, winning the money, then finding out my age and getting barred, but I'd get barred from anywhere for 50 quid, so it was fine. And so I did this show, and I got a phone call before it was aired from Butlins in London saying, oh, would you like to come and work here? And I was like, oh, well, I didn't win the show. And they said, well, we know that, but we really like your voice, and we'd like you to come, and we need a singer, we'd like you to come. And I remember sitting in the porch on the phone, my mum behind me, and I'm going, is there anything you need to be? She's going, you need to tell him, in the back of my ear, and I'm trying to have the phone call of my life at this first job. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I went, do you need to be a certain age? And they went, well, you're 18, aren't you? And I said, no, I'm not. And I nearly burst into tears. And they said, don't worry, I'll sort it.
Oh.
And they came back a couple of days later, and I was like, by this time, I really wanted this job. I was like, I've got a job in London, hotel, Butlins, singer, I'm going to do it. And the general manager and the entertainments manager signed this Guardian my parents had to sign guardianship over for the 4 months before I turned 18.
Oh, really? Blimey. I
Hard,
was
isn't it?
I was 17 when I went to Barry Island, and you had to be 18 to do the job. So we both lied our way into the business. I think it's...
Well, I came out in truth before I took the job.
Oh yeah, no, of course you did. Yeah, I didn't.
It was mad. I loved it. We did bus tours around London, and I signed my comedy. I remember going past the dinosaur outside the Natural History Museum and pointing out the statue of Camilla Parker Bowles, which is really bad. But at the time, it was, it was all in the papers. It was funny. So I'd find my comedy around London, and then I'd have them all singing songs on the way back. And the better your bus tour, the bigger the tip. So I used to have me and Matt Roper, who's another red cone. He's a comic, now he's a great comic.
Yeah, his father was George, wasn't he?
Yeah. Festival persona.
Okay.
All the bus drivers wanted to go with me or Matt because they knew they'd get the biggest tip.
And didn't you once do a season with Tim Pope? I was doing a season with Tim. I think, did you work with Tim Pope?
Seaside Theatre. Yeah, God, I forgot I'd done that. So I did a number of seaside theatres. So Hunstanton and
Princess.
Bridlington, wonderful place.
Okay.
Only go for a week, but it's a lovely place. But yeah, we did Aladdin as a sort of summer pantomime, and he was the dame. He was a wonderful dame. But then we also kind of had a musical show during the week. So we do 2 shows a week. So we do the pantomime at family times, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Fridays, and then we'd have this musical show. And it was a full sort of 6-7 week season. Yeah, and he just never stopped being funny. He was just always turned on in that way.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he was a brilliant dame. I remember and a sweaty dame as well, because I remember doing all the slapstick stuff, and he was obviously Widow Twankey, and he used to slip around. He was a good man.
Oh, bless him. Yeah, we missed him. What I always love about you is that you are always creating and inventing, and let's talk about the birth of Elsie Crumpet. She is. I've just been watching some stuff earlier, Karen, and I'm sat there crying at stuff I shouldn't be laughing at because it's very naughty of you. But you created a monster, and she's got a huge fan base. So where did she come from?
Well, she came from my nan, first of all.
Oh, right.
I used to get paid dinner money at school for doing impressions of the teachers, and so I've always sort of taken people off, and that's kind of what I was doing. And so I'd sort of take my nan off a bit, and then Catherine Tate's nan started to be around, and I started to do a bit of an impression of her, and it just, it was that in the background. And then I got approached by a management, and I've never been managed, but I don't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I've managed to work without it. But they approached me and they said, "We think you could be a comedy vocalist." And I was like, "What's that mean?" And they went, "Well, you get paid a bit more." I was like, "Well, right then, I can be funny, all right, I'll try it." And so I talked to them about it, and I went with them for a little while, and they sort of said, "Well, what can you do? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? What can you do?" And I said, "Oh, I can do a good impression of my nan." And I was joking. And so I created this sort of last 15 minutes of the show at holiday parks where we were doing this season, where I would say to people, "Look, I've bought my nan. She was really getting bored in her house, and I said, I'm going to the seaside. I've got a couple of days, a few nights. Does she want to come with me?" I said, "So I've brought with me, but can you just humour her? She wants to come out and say hello to you all." And people bought it. They thought I seriously was going to bring my nan out, and then it grew to, it's her birthday, and I'd bring a birthday cake and say, I'm just going to go and get her, and the cake would be on the stage, and I'd go off stage, and in about 1.5 minutes I'd have this voiceover of my nan talking to me from the toilet when she's saying things like, "I'm just pulling my tights up," and all that sort of thing, and it was this recorded voiceover. I'd get changed into this old lady character, and I'd come out on stage, and people weren't expecting it, so it was an instant, God, that was a quick change, and what a laugh. And I'd finish the show, and I'd just crack a few funnies, find myself a new husband in the audience, and then finish it with "We'll Meet Again," and it was just a lovely moment. But I turned up to a gig at Naysmarine in Essex, Naysmarine, and I'd forgotten my dress.
Oh, no.
So I didn't have a Karen Glitzy, lovely cabaret dress ready to sing them some songs and be a bit funny and cheeky and bring my nan on. I only had my Elsie Crumpet. Well, it was Elsie at the time. She wasn't Elsie Crumpet then.
Okay.
She was Elsie. I only had the fat suit, a flannelette dress, and some corrective walking shoes, and a walking stick, and a mini disc, which it was back then, full of Karen Dalton songs. And I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to. I don't know what to do. There were no girls there that were 5'7" and the same dress size as me, so that was out the window. There was no stock dresses or anything like that. It was really, I was like, well, I'm just going to have to do it. So I just went on and winged it. I went out as Elsie Crumpet, well, Elsie at the time. I sang Karen songs in an Elsie way. I managed to, on the spot, find funny new lines. So Karen singing a line in a song wasn't funny, but all of a sudden an old lady called Elsie singing it, it was really funny, and I just changed it. And I came off stage, I had the best gig I've ever had, really, up until that time.
Yeah.
And I came off stage and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was with an agent friend was there, and he came backstage and he said to me, well, love, you're now a comedian. And that was it. I'll never forget those words. Well, love, you're now a comedian. And that was it. They then struck off my comedy vocal gigs and changed them into comedian gigs. And that was it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a comedian. Oh
that's
gosh,
amazing.
how do I do this? But I just kept going. And then all of a sudden Elsie became Elsie Crumpet because she had to have a surname and she had to have a backstory, and that got built. And then I went on and on and on and did different hostings and different walkabout gigs, and then I did corporate gigs, and then I hit the gay scene with and that was it, so, and what a following it's got. I honestly can't believe how lucky I am to sort of, looking on, it's so funny, I look on Facebook and I was doing these lives over the pandemic, and I've got it's like 5,500 to 7,000 views on different things. And then there was one that went up to 11. I was like, oh, this is mad. And
that's amazing.
I've now got people buying T-shirts with Elsie Crumpet, and they're called the Crumpeteers. It's hilarious. It just, to me, it's like, I can't.
I've seen you just do Karen Dalton as vocals. I've seen you as Elsie Crumpet doing bingo and doing quizzes. And I've seen you amalgamate the two. And the wonderful thing with Elsie is that you can do this whole character, you can host a whole evening, a one-woman show, but at the other end of the spectrum, she can belt out real songs, real big songs. It's a surprise element you have with your massive vocals. It's such a potential for Britain's Got Talent to boost your followers, and I know they've probably contacted you already. I think even Chubby Brown went on Opportunity Knocks, but got beaten 4th place by a spoon. But I think you could, there's nothing wrong with 4th place on BGT, I've tried it. But if I just think to boost your followers, I think you've got nothing to lose. Is it something you'd never do?
Well, it's one of those things, it's about self-confidence. I talk very confidently about how to put on events and things like that. And I can say, I'm really good at that. But when it comes to being on stage, I have difficulty in the belief in myself, which might surprise you, actually, because I'm really quite a confident person, and I know that I do all right on stage, and I know that I've got this following, but I just still can't sit there and go. A lot of times people say to me, you don't realise how good you are, you don't realise how many people want to see, and I stopped doing these lives. I had a bit of a pandemic blues, do you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm out for this. And it's a confidence thing, I think. And going on to, I don't know how I do it as well, because I don't know if I'd go on there and be just Elsie Crumpet, a bit like Honey G was just Honey G, and do it as complete persona.
Yes.
But then, sometimes I think you're just being a character, and I lose the confidence. Well, there's been Miss Merton, there's been Dame Edna, there's been Catherine Tate, just another old lady, Karen. But
huge, yeah.
She is special, and I talk about her like she's real, because just like your puppets, you are completely real, and that's why you have such great relationships and chemistry with them. She's real. Yeah,
she gets away with so much.
She's not me. She's nothing to do with me.
No. she is so distant from Karen Dalton, but you are two different entertainers. But what I love about her, I watched you earlier, and just you can get away with so much naughtiness, like Arthur Lager can. The Peking duck phone call I saw today. I watched one of your Facebook posts, but you put on a full show. You're singing songs, you're doing, requests and stuff from people. You've got your fan base. You entertained so much last year. We sat down and enjoyed some evenings, just sat down with a drink and watched your shows. What you did, you just kept on performing. I understand that the moment, where you crash into a wall and you need to stop because, what are we getting out of this as entertainers, and you went for so long, and it was so brilliant. But the Peking duck calling the restaurants and stuff was, and doing the Rindercella, but in Crumpet's own way. It was Elsie's version of Rindercella is the best I've ever heard. But what you do with her, you add your additions to her, is just incredible. It really is a monster that you've created. I love it.
I think you're right. I think I was doing every Sunday, and then I was doing every charity event online that I could do, and you became like among some of these entertainers that were doing it, especially on the gay scene, with a lot of drag queens that were every week, and people used to message me and say, you are keeping me going through this,
Yes.
with everything that was going on and all these different things. We did stuff for the NHS, we did all sorts of things, and it was just one of those sort of almost wartime feelings where everybody was really, it was really. We're still in a place of unknown, but we have better knowledge now. But when it was a real unknown, it was quite scary for a number of people. There's lots of people living on their own and all those sorts of things, and so it went and it went and it went and it went, and it was brilliant. But I almost felt like it was hard work because it wasn't just a show. It was trying to homeschool 2 children, husband needing to, find a job and manage a house and think, and all the emotion that we had going with our pandemic, because we all have our own. But I would have to try and create new material because I'm going on a screen, I'm getting shared, and it's every week. And it's not like when you go, do you know what, tonight I'm in Bridlington, next week I'm on a cruise ship, the week after that I'm in Essex, the week after that I'm in London, or where, the day, wherever you are on tour, it's a different rolling audience. Yes, you get some people coming back year on year and come to see your shows, and that's brilliant, but it's a different audience, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel so much. And it was just, I hit creative burnout.
Yeah.
And I literally went and applauded the TV comedians that have just kept going for years and years and years. I know a lot of them have gone into sort of like hosting television programs, which gives you that different vehicle. But those that are doing constant, like, live at the Apollos and tours and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, sure.
The
constant material.
Give you anywhere to hide or redo or pull that gag out again. You can't. So I found it really difficult.
Ice and Teeth
Did start to invent new things as well, and I saw what you did with Herbie Adams. You invented Mr. and Mrs. Santa. Before we wrap this up, can you talk about that? How did that go at Christmas? That was a wonderful idea.
So Mum was Mrs. Christmas, Dad was a professional Father Christmas. There was a couple of really lovely, expensive costumes sitting in my dad's loft with him not wanting to be Mr. Werther's original Santa. And then there was the thought, well, okay, what are we going to do? Where am I going to take my kids to see Father Christmas? Oh, God, we can't ruin the magic of Christmas. They're young. I just went, I can do that. I could be Mrs. Christmas. Oh, hang on a minute. And I'd already birthed a company called Doorstep Entertainers, which was with Tracy Quinn. So Tracy was like, I need to do something for my mind. And I was like, I've got a genius idea. Yeah. Let's set up a company. And I bought the company name in early May. We were quick, fast off the bat. Yeah. We bought the company name doorstepentertainers.co.uk. Wow. Had a website built. And we've been sending out singers, singing telegrams, balloon modelers, magicians to your doorstep.
That is
knock on the door, 3 metres away.
That's incredible.
Instead of a bunch of flowers, they deliver a song. Obviously, when it was really, really bad over Christmas, and we were on that like second strain and all those things, we stopped for that. But we've been managed to go through the whole pandemic. We haven't, we've made some money, but it's kept.
It's a start.
It might be something nice to talk about actually, because it's kept musicians and singers and acts in work, so their mind's been looking forward to that next gig. But actually I've done a few myself, and what you don't realise is when you deliver a song to somebody, actually it's been as good as radio silence when it comes to live entertainment. And when that's happening at your door, the emotions that it's infused and what's come out of the person in front of you,
it's incredible because it's personal,
quite remarkable, and something that I really haven't experienced on any stage before in my life.
Wow. It's so personal as well, because they're getting that personal entertainment delivery.
I was thinking about how am I actually going to stay awake to do a gig and a drive home?
Yes. No, I've not thought about that yet.
I just don't know. I drove home late. I went to a friend's house, sit in her garden, and I was such a rebel. I stayed out till midnight, which I haven't done. That seems like, midnight. Normally you're 2 or 3 in the morning, night owls. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And I was driving home, 15 minutes, going, I feel a bit tired.
Oh my God.
But
It's the energy, isn't it? The adrenaline that we're not getting.
I'll stop rambling on.
Oh, conversational.
If I can get a singing telegram to a door, maybe I could get Mr. and Mrs. Christmas to turn up. So I spoke to Herbie Adams, and he was all over it, and he's a brilliant Father Christmas. And we did it. We set up a Facebook marketing plan, got ourselves out there. We, from the moment we got the email, they would get spoken to, by the elves. We wrote all these lovely email templates, and then they'd get a letter to Santa that they had to fill out ahead of time. And then we got bells made, and we got reindeer food, and we got these amazing certificates. And we turn up, and we were supposed to just turn up for a 5-10 minute encounter.
Yeah.
We ended up being on people's doorsteps for 20 minutes with Santa and his guitar playing jingle bells. And
oh, that's amazing.
And Mrs. Christmas was just like Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast, and Angela Lansbury all rolled into one. I just loved it.
Oh, that's so incredible, as the inventive, creative side of performers, but then the doorstep entertainers as well, mixing that with Santa, and just such a great idea, because you had to change, from the summer to the winter, and you did that with your events manager mind. It's truly incredible. I loved to see that, and I saw the promo for the Christmas idea. It was so nice to see that you were keeping busy, and the focus was very important for entertainers, knowing that we could shut down again and start all over again.
I think the only time I was very lucky. The only time I truly stopped, I was like, look, I'm one of those people. Not everybody can do it, but I was like, I have to work. If I don't, I'll lose my mind.
Yeah.
So I somehow created a vehicle to work at every stage during the pandemic, whether that was an online show or whether that was on somebody's doorstep or what it was. And so it was just that need to fulfill that, but also I was thinking about all these, people. We also took Christmas to hospice and things like that, and saw children at windows outside and stuff, to sort of have that as well, to sort of be giving as well. And it was one of those things, thinking everybody's in this rubbish situation, what can we do as entertainers? That's what we do.
Yeah,
it's what Vera Lynn did. I'm in no way comparing myself to her, but that's what she did.
She did do that.
That kind of,
yeah, you think about the entertainers on the Titanic. That was probably the last people to be working on that ship. Do you know what I mean? Well, they did in the film anyway, but the entertainers are probably the last people to still be going, to keep the morale.
It is absolutely about the morale, keeping people going. It's the emotion that it brings, and that's why we do it, isn't it? I love to say we do it for the money. I don't.
That's just a bonus, isn't it?
And I love it.
It's amazing, because you've got that comedian side now to you, which was your mum. You've got that creative side from your uncle Dennis as well, and I love that we found each other you know, as entertainers and friends. It's been amazing knowing you, Karen, and I hope we get to do more events in the future and put some shows together. It's Arthur Lager
so
and
nice,
Elsie.
wouldn't it, to do something to fundraise for something that's not, you know, really, especially over what's been going on this year. We'll find something.
We'll find
that
something.
Really needs,
We will.
You know, a cause that needs us, and we'll go to it. That's what we do.
Definitely. Karen, thank you so much, and pass your family my love. And your kids have grown up so much, and obviously I knew you before children, so it's scary how quick the kids have grown.
Oh, it is. To think that you've got your 40th birthday pictures came up as a memory.
Last week, yeah.
You had your birthday and then you had your surprise party, and I was looking
wow.
at little Lola and thinking she's not so little anymore, you know, in the pictures and things like that. So yeah.
That is scary.
Yeah, it's been 3. A long time.
It has been. So thank you so much for being on Eyes and Teeth. And we'll spread some of your videos. We need to get some of Elsie's work out there and more people to watch that. Because is she coming back? Is Elsie coming back?
She's already back. So she won't be coming back online for a while. I've been doing a few things, but I'm pleased to say, and until I'm actually on the stage, we all know things can change in this ever-changing world that we're living in.
Yes.
But I've got gigs booked, and that
Amazing.
is a great feeling from having a rather lovely big diary last year to having nothing in it all of a sudden. It feels good. We're on the up. Things, cogs are moving, things are opening, and we've got new ways to do things. There's outside stages being built. We're going to be all right.
Yes, we are. Keep them smiling. Karen, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope I haven't talked too much. I usually do.
It doesn't matter what voice you're talking in. It's just enough. It's perfect.
But all right, Steve, I'll have to go now because this is Elsie. Karen's had to nip off. So yeah, I'll have to say good night to you, darling. Good night, sweetheart.
Thank you, Elsie. Lovely to hear your voice. Bless you. Hello, it's Arthur Lager here. Is that Elsie?
Oh, hello, darling. Oh, it's Arthur Lager. How are you? Still short?
All right, gorgeous. I'm still short, yeah. And you ain't been on Facebook for ages. I've been dying to poke you.
Oh, have you, darling? Well, you know, you send me a postcard and we'll see what pier we get to go up next.
I can't give a straight face. Karen, that was love. Elsie, Karen, whichever Karen you are. Thanks for being on the show. That was wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Karen Williams, or Karen Dalton, or Elsie Crumpet, or you get the picture. What a brilliant way to celebrate her birthday today by posting this podcast. Happy birthday, Karen. Enjoy your family. I hope Elsie spoils you. To see more of Karen and support her, to watch her shows, then go to her Facebook page, Karen Williams, Dalton in brackets. There are many YouTube clips of Elsie Crumpet online. Take a look at her, and if you're on Facebook, give Elsie Crumpet a follow too. You can see countless videos on there. Hours and days of entertainment. This week's comedy quote comes from Catherine Tate. My advice to you is please don't ever sit in your room and lock yourself away because you don't think you're good enough. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Nina and Larissa Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are all produced and performed by the wonderful Mr. Kevin Dean. Listen in next time on Eyes and Teeth, Funny for Money, when I talk to the greatest Norman wisdom tribute in the world, endorsed by the man himself, that is Glenn M. Ford.